Today it's episode 57, and we could just jump right in like we always do because we're like, we got stuff to do. Let's jump in and do this.
Right.
But I'm just going to take a minute and pause for a second and take a breath because I am so freaking happy that it's fall. And I know that you could be listening to this
Yes.
later on and it's like in the middle of summer or in the blistering wind and snow of winter. But right now, it is fall. And living in Indiana, I always feel like it's like you have the longest summer, and then
Mhm.
it's like, oh, fall's coming. And then you get fall, and you're like, fall's hit. And then it's winter.
It's like a
And it
moment.
is, oh, it is. It's a blip. It's like fall is more of an idea, or like the length of fall is literally synonymous with the word fall, like a person, because it's just a quick moment, right? But
Yep.
this year already has had a
Yes.
wonderful fall. It was so funny
Yes.
because it was like literally the day fall hit. It was like the day before a fall, it was crazy hot. Fall
Yep.
hit, and all of a sudden it was like maybe mid 60s, maybe low
Mhm.
70s, for a
Perfection.
light breeze. Yeah, and right now all the leaves are changing, the colors are everywhere. Like my wife and family and I were going traveling just down to Brown County or just driving around just to see the amazing, beautiful leaves and stuff. And I just cannot get enough of it. So, even though we're going to jump in and talk about something that has nothing to do with this, I'm here. I've got my long sleeve shirt on. Even though it's hot in this room, I've got my vest on because I love wearing vests because they cover my love handles. I get to eat all the crap that I want and enjoy fall to the fullest with beers and bourbon and pumpkin mugs of
Pumpkin everything.
Americano. It's pumpkin at everything, man. So anyway, I just wanted to start off saying thank you, fall. This is wonderful. I guess we could probably just jump into it now.
I'm gonna hold us off for a second because I gotta say, man, I share your love of fall. It is a passion of mine. Someone one time asked me what my favorite season was, and I said cinnamon. And
Yeah,
what I meant was fall, right?
yeah.
Because that's what I think when I think of fall. Like I think of all those things. And our family actually just took a trip down to South Carolina recently,
Mm.
and going through the mountains of North Carolina was incredible to see. Just the change in the season, the change of the leaves, everything. It's gorgeous. It is my favorite time of year, hands down. And I wore a t-shirt yesterday and I regretted it. And today I'm wearing a sweater, and I'm
And
gonna
you'll
stick with
regret it
this. I will regret it
because
eventually, yes.
there is the weird part where it's like you need a winter coat in the morning and a tank top in the evening,
Yep,
but
and that's
whatever.
okay. I will power through it because I am feeling the fall vibes, and I'm gonna stick with
Yeah.
them.
Well, I
So,
love
okay.
that, like, my system, my AC system is like, "Dude, make up your mind."
It has no
It's
idea what to
like,
do.
yeah, heat, AC, it's like, "You gotta stop, man. You just
Yes.
pick one because you're gonna break me, and I can't have that." But
Yes.
anyway.
Sadness too. Earlier, last week, my gas fireplace gave up the ghost, and now I have to figure out what the hell is going on with it. Jamie, my wife, told me today, she's like, we need to fix it like tomorrow because this is unacceptable. So, I know it's in my future. So,
Yep, that's for sure.
okay, let's jump in now. So we've been discussing team development here for a while. Past few podcasts, team development with different topics of their growth, our growth, things like that. And really, in general, our big aim, our topics here that we've aimed at helping specifically new people in leadership or people who are coming into leadership role. How do they grow in those leadership skills? It's something that we saw as a need, so that's something we really have pushed hard for. Today,
Mm,
we're really hitting, I feel like, a milestone in our conversation here because now we're hitting one of the large fundamental building blocks of growth in that path of moving from positional to
mm.
permission based leadership, and that is respect.
Yeah, as a leader, we should always be looking for signs or feedback, to see if we've lost the respect of those we're leading. That may not sound like a big deal to you. If it doesn't, if you're like, "No, they should respect me because I'm a this," then, listen up, turn this up. If you got me turned down right now, fix that, because that type of leadership is foolish. It is just foolish. Like, you want to get curious if you're at that place. If you think that the only way that you lead people is because you have that title, you're going to fail hard. Okay. You want to look for things. What have I done wrong that may have caused this loss of respect? Now, there are going to be time. This doesn't mean that people like you or don't like you. That's not respect. Okay.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
you, don't like you. That's more just a personal preference. Don't try to get everyone to like you. That's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. Some people like peaches, some people like apples. If you're a peach, some people just don't like you. And that's the thing you're just going to have to deal with. But respect is a different thing. Respect is one of those things that if you lose it, good luck. This whole podcast is just on this idea of regaining respect and building respect back and putting in safeguards not to lose that respect as you're leading people. Okay. If we're not looking at this, you should worry. Okay. You will be limited as a leader and will be lacking as a leader if you don't have respect. Okay. You will not get the best out of your team. I promise you. You will get the bare minimum, and I think probably even less than you would get from just having a neutral base level of respect from your team. Okay. You may not see this in the day to day, but it will for sure become evident when all of a sudden you have one of those oh shit moments and things are just falling apart all around you. And you look for your team to show up in those moments with the same vigor, and they're like, peace, I'm out. That happens because you don't have respect. You're not going to get the best out of people. Okay. So we will see this even, and we see this like it's easy thing to pick up when we just have to go look at production reports. How are people and their teams doing? Okay. One sign, and it doesn't always mean loss of respect. I want to be careful there. Anytime there's a lack of production, there can be many, many reasons. But if you notice that there are leaders in your organization around you at the same level you are, same positional rank, if you will, and they are getting production out of people, but you are losing time and time again, it that is probably a respect thing. Okay. I want to read some statistics because they're crazy. But team members who don't respect their leaders, they work far less and they're way less productive. They're way less efficient. They're way less like even connected and engaged in their work.
Mm,
66% of people who feel disrespected and therefore don't respect their leaders said their job performance absolutely suffered because of this.
wow.
47%. These are the ones actually that just get me. 47% said they intentionally spent less time at work, and
Whoa.
38% said they deliberately decreased the quality of their work. Now, as
Yikes.
a leader, you might be thinking, well, shame on them. No,
Shame on you.
like, exactly. You might be thinking, well, they shouldn't do that. They should be doing all these other things and doing what I say. Like, I'm sorry, be the bigger person here. This is a podcast called Ridgeline Leadership Podcast. It's time to be a grown up. This is what this is about. Is us stepping into a place where we hear these statistics and we don't look down our nose at everyone else like, well, those
Mhm.
people are the problem. Well, no, those percentages had to do with the leader, had to do with the leader. Yes, I don't think they're good. I don't think I'm like, oh, yeah, I totally get it. They're right for deliberately decreasing the quality of their work. No, they're not. But a good leader sees that and says, man, I got to up my game. I got to go talk with them. I got to go work with them and develop them. And I got to gain respect back. And when they do that, they're going to do some pretty amazing stuff.
Man, I just, as you're talking about this, like in one of my past lives, I've actually experienced this, and not in a good example, right? This is an example of me not seeing. It's easy to look back now and see that the loss of respect was there, right? It's something that we're not going to see it in the moment always, but looking back, it's easy to analyze it. I was in a situation where I was in a position of leadership. I had the final say for this team, and throughout the course of our time together. It was about 8 months that we worked together as a team. I just saw the really the production level just continue to drop, and at some point too, not only did the production level drop, but the direct opposition increased. And I started noticing that, like, it was so blatant that I noticed it even in the moments of I sent this directive and they decided that that wasn't what they wanted to do, so they went and they did something completely different. And that caused frustration and anger and all these things, these emotions on my part. And completely vulnerable moment here, I didn't have the right response. I didn't go to them and say, okay, I didn't go to myself first and say, what have I done in this situation? How have I lost their respect? I started blaming them and saying, well, it's their fault, they're just not listening, or whatever the rationalization and justification that we make in our minds and our own heads towards the situation. But I literally watched that team collapse. And while there were really good things that came out of that team, and there were really good things that happened within that organization because of that team, I can point to all of them at the beginning and none of them at the end. The end was just, hey, we're just trying to at this point just get along, because we had to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with each other. It was nonstop. It wasn't like there was any separation. So we were just trying to survive at that point, let alone be productive and actually have an impact. So this happens, and that happened over the course of a few months. We're not even talking a long period of time here. It's a short time that this just fell apart. And again, on me, that was not on them. That was on me because I lost their respect some way. And this is 10 years removed from now, so it's not something that I could unfortunately go back and try to figure out. I don't know that I would be able to without their input.
It's a thing you've
But
learned from, though.
absolutely learn from it.
Yeah.
It's something that I think about and go, okay, I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
And this idea, this concept is one of the big pieces of moving from that positional level where you've been placed there or you've been hired for this position as a leader. And now you want to take that to the next level, which is permission, right? That's where you start to establish a relationship with your team, or team members. This is where you're starting to level up, right?
Mm.
Keep in mind, though, this is not the pinnacle. And I just want to remind everybody too, in John Maxwell's book, this is where we're getting this is the 5 levels of leadership. We've got permission, or I'm sorry, I do this every time. We've got position, then we have permission. And that's kind of where we're talking. After that, we talk about production, we talk about people development, and then there's pinnacle.
Mm.
Pinnacle is where, from John Maxwell's description, that's where the respect lives, right? But it's started to be earned, and it's starting there at that position to permission level.
Yeah. That's good. The thing I thought about with that, especially as you talked about that, like you were put in that positional level of leadership or rank of leadership, it's so interesting to me that when people get put into that place, because at one point you were a follower, you were a worker, and I don't say that in a negative connotation. So if you heard
Oh,
that,
sure. No.
uh, that's not right. Okay. But and then you got put into a leadership position. I think the thing people forget is they got put into that leadership position because of who they already were and things they were already doing to get put into that. Okay. Normally, that's not always the case, but normally that's
Right.
what that is. But then what we try to do once we get into that positional purpose is we start to try to act like that person in a way, or like
Yep.
try to do those things like outside of what we were already doing that got us there. So we have to be careful. And when you lose respect because you were an asshole, you were lying, and we'll dig into other ways that we drop this, but you lost respect for something, you better fight like hell to regain that
Yep.
ground and that respect, because the thing that got you there is is part of and needs to be built up more into the thing that's going to continue to grow from that positional to purpose level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is always earned, right? This is not something that just because you're placed in the position that the respect automatically comes with it. The
Right.
responsibilities do, the accountability does, but the respect does not. It is something that's always earned, whether it be at the very beginning of being placed in that position
Yeah.
or at the point where you realize I have lost the respect of the people that I am leading. Now I have to earn that back. It's not
Yeah.
something that just you can flip a switch. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. Hey, I want to be super nerdy here, okay?
Please. I love
Because
it.
Yeah, I love, we may lose like all our viewers here, but here we go. I love high fantasy books. I don't know what it is, but like I love them. It's another world. I'm just out there,
Yeah.
like not in my own problems and in my own circumstance. I'm just seeing and hearing things. So it's wonderful. I love it. Make fun of me all you want. But anyway, one of the books is called The Way of Kings. Okay. It's a great book,
Okay.
part of the Stormlight archive. Definitely get nerdier the more I talk here. So, anyway, in this book, there's this guy who was basically this general like person in the in an army and was a great leader and did something where he did some huge feat of like this great victory, and someone came and took the victory and everything for themselves and then made him a slave.
Oh,
And
geez.
so he had to go back through, basically, and I'm not going to give much more of a spoiler than this, but he had to go back through, um like going from a slave and growing into the person he became or does become, no spoilers, eventually. But one of those moments, he's in this slave camp, and there's this guy who's like, "Hey, nothing you're gonna do is gonna change um how you lead. Like, you're not gonna get everyone's respect. You're not like they're not gonna give you your rank's not gonna mean anything. They're gonna ignore you."
Mhm.
And he Kaladin is the guy's name, because again, I'm getting nerdy. He
Yep.
said he said this. He said, "Authority doesn't come from rank. It comes from the men who give it to you. That's the only way you get it."
That's
And
good.
that's why I read fantasy every day. Okay? It's unbelievable
I love
because
that.
of bombs like that. Authority doesn't come from rank, it comes from the men who give it to you. So, this idea of authority is this thing that everyone or I'm sorry, respect is this thing everyone has. They just have it, and I give it to people. It's not something that is mine. People are giving it to us. And I think, as dumb as all that sounds, that's a that's a mic drop moment right there. Because the truth is, without trust, without building trust with people, respect will never be there.
Mm.
You want to know how to gain respect? Gain trust. Okay. And that's where we've got to dig into, how do we get trust, right? Like, how do we build trust,
Yeah.
especially when you've been a knucklehead or something's happened and you've lost that trust. Okay. So, trust comes through, I think, a few things. Two things I think specifically. Trust comes through safety, and it comes through candor. When I say safety, I mean
Yeah.
this ability, like, I'm safe to share, I'm safe to risk, I'm safe to engage with others and share my opinion. And the whole candor thing is that we can have open lines of communication where I'm not just seeking to be understood, but I'm seeking to understand you, and you are doing the vice versa there.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's really good. Man, I love the drop moment too. And yeah, I love that. It comes from those who give it to you. That's so good. It's this is another thing I think to remember with that too, is as you're working towards gaining their trust where they can give that to you, this is not a short game. This is the long game you're playing here. It's not going to be something that is instant. It's not going to be, hey, I've worked with a team for a week now and they all respect me and I have all their trust. And no, it's going to take time for sure.
Yeah. And I've said this over and over, but anytime it's applicable, I want to say it. I had that mentor in my life who told me one time at the beginning of kind of our relationship, "You're going to build my trust with pennies and you're going to spend it in dimes."
Yeah.
And we can say, "Well, man, I don't know why it was just that one moment. I don't know why they're not respecting me and trusting me." Because a breach of trust is far weightier, heavier. That's a better word. Is
Yeah.
far
Heavy.
heavier than the moments that we build our trust.
Yeah. It's true. um, Make sure when you're working on this, like, engage with your team, right? This is something it's easy to forget, I think, too. And I go back to my example or my experience of, in those moments, had I built the time in to engage with my team when I realized that they were losing, respect for me, had I taken that time to work alongside them, and for the most part, the way our team worked, we did work together, but we were all working on different areas, like different tasks, and that was the way it just kind of stayed. And my job was to bring them all together at the end.
Mm,
Had I taken that time to build that engagement and that time together, I believe that I would have been able to fight against the loss of respect and be able to fight
mm,
like how to get that back, because that separation, or that lack of engagement rather, builds that separation. The more that I stay away from them because I feel like they don't want me around because they don't respect me, the more that separation is going to grow, and the less they're going to respect me. And that's just it's something that when you see it, it hurts. It's tough. It's not going to be easy to jump in and start engaging with a team that clearly does not respect you. But that is one of your first steps, really. And then knowing too, like, this is a good check in with yourself, knowing where your influence comes from. In those moments, my influence simply came because I was placed in that position, not
mm,
because I had established relationships with all of them. Some of them, yes, I had a relationship with. Some of them I could go to and we could have a full conversation and be open and have candor, and they could do the same thing with me, but not all of them. I had
mm,
not built all of those relationships to the point where I had that permission to lead them. It was only the influence I had was only there because I was placed in that position.
mm. Yeah, that's good. You're not going to be able to lastingly create success with a team if all you're living on is just the fumes of positional leadership. It's
Yep.
not going to happen.
Yep.
That is only going to get you so far. And if you realize, man, I have lost respect somehow, and all you do is say, whatever, they're going to have to get over it. I'm the leader. You are not a leader.
No.
You're not. You're just the person that we have in that position right now who's not going to be in that position for much longer.
Mhm.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's the truth of it. So now I kind of want to dig into some ways or things because I don't think we always know why we lost respect, or we don't see it from another person's perspective, because we see in our mind the rationality of why we did something, right? We see that what I did was for the best of something. Could be for myself. You're not going to necessarily have a conscious issue with yourself when you lose these respect. When you lose respect, sometimes you're going to try to find reasons to explain away any of your conscious issues where you're like struggling with your conscious. Well, was that me or was that them? Well, let's just say it was them and I'll live on that hill. And
Right.
like the thing is we've got to see and hear all these things and kind of see like, okay, well, why am I doing those things? Why do I do those things? Is there something deeper I need to deal with in me before leading people? Because when you hear some of these things, you might be like, "Uh-oh, I think that's me." And that's okay. Remember, this is a leadership podcast about understanding what leadership is and developing it and going to that next level. So it's okay to not be okay. Okay. It's just not okay to stay that way. So let's be okay here. Let's dig into what those things are. I think the first one is a pretty clear one, and that's lying. You're going to lose a ton of respect. Nobody's going to trust you. You cannot build a level of trust on lies. Okay. They're contradictory. It won't work. And I think like the blatant lies, that's pretty easy. Like, you lied to them. And first off, that is a horrible way to live. Um, I hate the idea of lying because it just doesn't feel like I don't feel free. Like I feel like I just can't, like I feel like I have a weight on me and like, oh man, I don't I don't know why I did that. And then you just go fess up because your conscience is just gnawing at you so much that you're like, I just need this off my back because I just want to be free. I don't want to be bound by this lie. I don't want to have to try to keep up constantly trying to spin new webs and explain things a different way. Like it's just an easy way to lose trust, but it's not always blatant. I think this is where like other people's perception of their reality is their reality. Okay. So
Yeah.
someone else's perception of something you said, whether it's an omission of truth or that you just kind of like led them astray, they're going to define it by what they define it by, not how you define whether that was a lie or not. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or if you don't keep your word, like, hey, I'll be there at this time and you're not there. Like, some people will be like, they lied. That's a
Mhm.
lie. It's a breach of trust. And they will take it to that. Other people will be like, yeah, I get it. I'm not there. My
Right.
bad. But some people will see it that way, and guess what? That's their reality, and whether you respect that as their reality or not doesn't matter. They now have
Yeah.
lost respect for you.
Yep.
So, that's just one of those areas, like, when it comes to lying, don't think of it as just like, I consciously said the exact opposite of what was true. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's misleading, omission of truth, um, yeah, or just not following through on your word. So, that's a big one. Another one is, we lose respect when we are so self-focused. When
Yeah.
all the attention is on me, I'm self-promoting, I'm like, glorifying everything. It will not go well for you. People get fed up with that because, um, this is sorry to say this, but, this world's not about you. We're not all hanging up in the closet waiting for you to come in and choose us to be part of your world. That's just not the case. And I'm saying that to me too. Okay. I know these are areas I
Oh,
struggle. And so, like, I'm not just like, shame on you. Like, I get it. It's me. And these are things we have to dig into to not lose respect. Um, Only seeing people or treating people for your own personal gain. Okay. We don't want to be that person. Um, Always being negative is another one. This is People will not wanna be around you if you
yeah.
are always the victim. If you're the victim and everything's always happening to you and you're always negative and you're always pessimistic, I do not like, if I went to go start a day and we had a project and someone came in and was like, "It's gonna rain and my arms hurt and it's not gonna work and I'm sure something's gonna happen." I would not be
Yep.
like, "Hell yeah, let's do this." I would be
Right.
like, "Yeah, I don't know, you're probably right." Like, people will lose respect for you or even in the sense of like, "Hey, you're gonna be on so and so's job," and so and so's super negative, that person's probably like, "Oh,
Hmm.
alright, guess I'll go." That's a loss of respect there, okay? Another one, I struggle on this one hard, is interrupting others, okay? It's just a lack of respect to that person. It's almost like, "Hey, your opinion doesn't matter." And not that that's always your intent, but again, other people's perception of their reality is their reality.
Just a little side note on this too, to bring it to like our day and age too.
Did you just
Another
interrupt
form of
me?
this. I didn't actually. I waited till you were done speaking.
I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Very good. Is and this is kind of becoming more of a pet peeve of mine since I've seen myself do it. But like when you're in a conversation and you're talking to somebody and your phone buzzes and you pull it out and you look at it, that's like super rude and also shows that you respect more what's happening on your phone than you do the
Mm,
person in front of you talking to you. So
yeah.
I'm done now.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when you do that.
I know.
I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say it out loud. Everyone's probably like, "Oh, uh, this is
Well,
awkward."
my wife told me that I do it, and this was a while back. And since
She's
she's
right.
told me that, oh, she is right, 100% right. I am like super aware of the moments when not only I see myself do it, but I catch like other people that I'm not a part of the conversation, and I see them doing it. I'm like, oh, that just bothered me. Why does that
Yeah,
bother me? And I'm not even part of it. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm done now.
Because things we do tend to be the things that bother us the most when other people
Yes,
do 'em.
correct. Yep,
And
absolutely.
which kinda leads to the other one is, like, one way to lose respect is not respecting others.
Yep.
Like, over 54%, this is a high number, over 54% of employees claimed that they don't regularly get respect from their leaders. That's
Jeez.
that's called an epidemic, okay? That's an
Hmm.
epidemic.
It is.
People need to respect people. Take rank out, take everything else out. You wanna be a good leader, respect others. It will get you so much further. You can know almost nothing about what you do, but if you respect other people, people will see you as a good leader, and you can BS your way through about anything at that point.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You
yeah,
can.
I just just I mean, don't BS it. Go learn, go grow, but I just mean you can go a lot
just
farther.
just fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, One of the things too that is a surefire way of losing someone's trust is holding them accountable to something when you've not given them expectations. So you ask someone to do a task, but you've not clearly laid out what you expect to be done. And then when it's not done the way that you wanted it to, you berate them or tell them they've done it wrong, but you've never actually told them the proper way that you wanted it done or the result that you wanted. That's going to
Yeah.
instantly lose respect because now you're seen as a person who has expects others to be a mind reader for you.
Yeah.
That you want everybody else to figure it out, so um, to be exactly the way you want it, and they should just know. You're gonna, I mean, people like that, you're not gonna have people following that type of person for very long at all. They're going to be gone very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. I think another thing that is a surefire way to lose respect, and maybe you've done this, is just not being willing to be in the trenches. Um, Pushing crap you don't want to do onto other people. If that's your form of leadership, is like, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to push this on, you're going to be in trouble. I think there are more leaders. And I think this is why this was like delegation was so hard for me growing up as a leader, is because I saw so many leaders just delegate almost everything. They didn't want to do anything. And so I
Right.
was terrified of delegation being exploitation, and I didn't want that. And so that's why, like, you've probably heard me say that, uh, like, true good delegation is not exploitation, it's multiplication. But when delegation becomes exploitation, it's because you're just pushing, like, you're not doing anything, you're just
Yeah.
pushing all your crap elsewhere. You will lose respect very quickly there.
I'm going to flip that around too. If you take everything, you're going to lose respect because now your team sees that you take things because you don't trust them, because you
So
don't
that's
believe
a
that they
okay.
can do it. So if you start taking everything and not delegating anything at all, this is where we talk about balance, right? If you take everything and this is more, so I'm talking to myself here right now. This is more
Mhm.
where I fall. I fall in that I'm going to take everything. The team will start seeing that as, and they'll start losing respect because they'll see it as, well, Peter doesn't trust me. Peter
Yeah.
doesn't believe I can do this. Peter doesn't feel that I'm worth the time to teach me to do this. And that
Yeah.
respect level is going to continue to just plummet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, at first I was like, I don't agree with you at all.
Right.
But now I
Where are
totally
you
see
going
where
with
you're
this,
going
Pete?
with that. That was good. All right, bravo there. That was good. Um, I think another one is you got to have empathy for others and their feelings, and not doing that will lose you respect.
Yeah.
Like, if all you ever do is roll your eyes anytime someone shares feelings, the feelings, people crap that you don't want to deal with, sorry, you're in leadership. Get ready. That's what it's about. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you don't have empathy for other people, it's going to be a problem. You got to be careful. You don't just only have empathy all the time. And like, everybody, someone has lost 20 grandparents, and that just, mathematically doesn't make sense. Like, there is
Right.
a point where you got to be like, hold on a sec, man.
Yes.
um, I have purposely met all your grandparents at this point, and
Yes.
there's no way. But anyway, another big one, and this is, I think this is like bad leadership 101, is taking all the glory of the victories and pushing off all the blame of anything onto
Ooh.
other people when things go awry. Like, this is where you just have to be so freaking careful, because, like, it's good to celebrate. This doesn't mean like be like self, like, deprecating and like being horrible towards yourself. Like, I think it's fine to like jokingly, like, not take yourself too seriously, but you've victories should be shared. It should be shared across everyone who did it, because it's the team who did it. And the reason we say the owners or leaders or managers should take the ownership of the other stuff is because a lot of time, or of the crap, is because a lot of times it is because we didn't lead correctly. And I think you got to be really careful about that.
Yeah, I think too with that, when you're talking about things going awry, like and us pushing leaders pushing the blame off, that can go both ways too. So be careful of that. You can both push that blame downstream to your team and say, well, the team didn't do this, the
Mm,
team didn't do that, right? But you can also push it upstream and say, well, my leader or my boss or whoever is you're reporting to, whoever you're accountable to, they didn't clearly lay out expectations, or they didn't do this, or well, they're expecting Y when we can only perform Z. Be really careful with that. Own that, and don't allow that to go upstream or downstream.
yeah, I think being a leader can be one of the most manipulative places to be.
Hmm.
Very much so to what you just said. Because we can, like, being a leader, you're hedging between office, if you will, and field or team members and those superiors. So what you're able to do is always have a place to put blame. Okay. If you are always from those who you're leading, they're like, oh, this is bullcrap. And you're like, yeah, the office sucks, man. They just
Right.
make me do this. And then the office comes in and says, why aren't you getting this done? And you're like, well, it's because you give me trash people and they're not doing.
Yep.
You are in the most manipulative place possible. Hold it with reverence because
Hmm.
you can do damage to a culture, to people, and to their development as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you. That's really good. Here's some, let's jump to some practical things we can
Mm,
do. We talked about what not to do, right? All the things not to do.
right.
Let's talk about what we can do now, in rebuilding or building trust. And this goes for both situations. If you're in a situation where you've been given a position and now you want to build trust, all these things still apply. If you're in a position where you've lost trust because you're an asshole or you did something, or you screwed up, whatever it is, and you want to rebuild trust, these will all work, right? So first thing I like to do is call out, put your focus on others, get your head away from yourself, put your focus back on others. A lot of times when we have lost respect, it's because we've had our focus on ourselves. I read an article and it said the number one thing to overcome in regaining respect or gaining respect is narcissism.
Mm,
And that's the focus on self. That's the care of self. That's putting me in front of everything else. Get your focus off of you and put it on others. Put it on your team. Remember that you're there for them, right? We're talking
mm,
about moving to a permission based level of leadership, which is based on relationships, and the relationships are with the team. Your
mm.
focus should be first and foremost on them and not on yourself.
Yeah. Um, I think, we talked a lot about this, but I want to say it again. Own your faults. There is nothing more attractive than a person who truly owns their faults. I like you can lose my respect by screwing something up, like or doing something knuckleheadish. Yeah, like I can lose respect, but when I see someone go, "It was really on me and it's not acceptable. I'm going to fix it." And they really understand. I think this is part of it too. They understand the weight of what they did.
Mhm.
Because when I see that, I'm like, okay, we can deal with that. With a person like this, we can continue to grow because they have the moldable stuff. I think the flip side is when people own it and they minimize what their failure was and they're like, yeah, I screwed up, but it was just this. That's attitude. In fact, I don't even believe it. It feels like a lie to me. Remember how I said that lying is the perception of the beholder? And like that's my reality is that
Yeah.
if someone is just minimizes their failure and they're like, yeah, I guess it was me. What? Like, do you understand the weight of what you've done? Yeah, but like, yeah, I do. I should have done better. And like that's it. Like it drives me bonkers. Okay, we've got to be able to own our failures and own them with weight because whatever it is heavy for them too. And if they don't see that you've really engaged with how heavy of a failure you had was, they're not going to buy what you're putting down. Okay.
Mm.
And if they don't buy it, then you're not building trust back by owning your fault there.
Yeah.
You got to understand that all of this is going to take a lot of time to overcome and
Yeah.
rebuild. The whole building, or like you earn my trust in pennies and you spend it in dimes. Well, it takes a lot longer to get to 10 cents with pennies
Yeah.
than with a dime. So it will take time. Be vulnerable. Get rid of your effing attitude. Okay? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Get rid of it. It's not going to do you any good. And if you think, well, fine, I'm just going to leave and go elsewhere, enjoy. Enjoy.
Mhm.
Tell me how your next previous employer is. Okay. Tell me how your next previous team is because
Yeah.
it won't matter. You're just going to be a poor leader who always has a chip on their shoulder and nobody's going to want to work with you. Okay. So get rid of the effing attitude. Be willing. And this is where I'm gonna get preachy. Okay, here we go. Buckle up. Get or be willing to do anything. I
Mhm.
mean it. You want to rebuild trust, then nothing. And as a leader, you should understand this. Nothing is ever below you, okay?
Mhm.
Or beneath your skill level. Okay? Now, I get that good business means that people who are good at certain things continue to grow and probably shouldn't be doing a lot of the things that are lower in skill level. But that's not because they're not willing to do those things. It's
Right.
because they need to be doing the things that not as many people are as good at in their higher skill level. But if you're just not willing because you're God's gift to the world to go and get into the dirt and get your boots muddy, then you're not worth a cent of what you get
Yeah.
paid. You're not worth anything if you're not willing to get into the mud with people. And this is where this idea of leaders eat last comes from. Okay.
Mhm.
This idea of I want to say it's military. I don't know if it's specific to Marines, but the leader, as they would go into the mess hall to get their food, leaders never eat first. They're never the first to get the rewards or anything else. They always wait for their team and everyone on their team to get fed first. And then they'll eat. And they're not concerned about themselves. They're concerned about their team being fully sustained and ready to go.
Yep.
And this is this is kind of like I even think about like ancient even like I don't know if it's just ancient history where we had more of a agrarian culture that we had a lot of shepherds and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And just as you even study a lot of that classical history, you see that shepherds would take their massive flocks with them and they would set up like a perimeter at the end of the night and they would have like a gate for their flocks to go in and out of
Yep.
and they would sleep in the spot where the gate
Yep.
was so that nothing could come in. Okay? They built things in such a way that they could do that. And why? Because they were putting themselves before not before their team. They were putting their team before themselves. They were laying
Yes.
in a place of protection for their team, of safety for the team. And they would they would do things that just seemed crazy, but as you think back and look at the way they led their flocks, it was crazy. They
Yeah.
would go and if a sheep or a goat or something like that would wander, they would go, this sounds horrible. Okay, this sounds gruesome. But they would go get that thing, they would break its legs, and then they would put it on their shoulders and walk it around until
Yep.
its leg had healed. Like, and that's not just like the one time the the sheep goes away. It's like a
Right.
consistent behavior of it
Habitual.
going away. So it sounds horrible, but now think about it. That sheep, that goat, whatever it is on their back, staying close to them, hearing their voice, getting to know them in such a way that that leadership becomes really powerful. And the one thing I want to point out is the leader is bearing the weight at that point.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
shepherd is bearing the weight of that sheep and walking it around and taking care of it. So it isn't saying, break your legs and throw you in a ditch and peace, I'm
Right.
out because I'm the best leader. It's saying, I'm going to bear the weight, I'm going to walk with it. So, not to sound super eloquent here, but you want to be a good leader, you want to regain trust here, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got to. If you're feeling disrespected and therefore you're treating others poorly because, well, they're not respecting me, therefore I'm going to show them by not respecting them. Um, you're the leader.
Yeah.
Do you understand what that means? Okay, I know I'm sounding super harsh here today, guys, and I'm not apologizing because if this is you, then you need to hear this. Be the leader. Don't be petty and like withhold respect because, well, they're not
Mhm.
giving it to me. That's petty. And that's not a leader. And I don't even want you on our team if that's the case, right? And believe me, many other leaders believe the same thing. We don't want you on the team if that's not the case. Someone has to be the leader and someone has to be to follow, but being the leader is not a positional thing. And if that's the only thing you can think is, well, they should follow me because I am at such and such a rank, then you've missed it. And you've got a ton of ground to make up here. And if you don't, you're not going to last as a leader. And you'll see that you are going to think you're leading a ton of people and you're going to turn around and there's not a damn person in sight.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple books we mentioned. If you guys want to check them out, Leaders Eat Last. I love that
Yep.
concept
So
of
good.
eating last. I love the picture of the shepherd in the gate becoming that gate, protection,
Yeah.
safety, over like it's all there, and I love that.
Mm.
Way of the Kings. If you want to learn more about if you want to learn more
Yes,
about
you
fantasy
should
novels
read
and
fantasy books. I'm telling you, Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archive, Brandon Sanderson, you will be happy that you did it. Get over your nerd aversion and just dive in. You will love it.
I
Can't
love it,
believe that
man.
you just brought that book up. That's
I
awesome.
totally did. I used to read a lot of fantasy and then I got out of it for a long time. I mean, years. I haven't touched it and I've just gotten back into it in the past
Be
year
a
or
lot
so. And
cooler if you did.
oh man, it's so much. It's refreshing. It is refreshing. And that like you just brought out, we learned so much through those moments too, through those
Yep.
books of a parent not learning, right?
Yep.
And we learned through them. Last one too, we've talked about this and it's kind of build around this. Our podcast is 5 levels of leadership. The concepts in there are, we refer to that a lot, about the levels and things like that. So check those out too.
Mm.
Remember, gaining respect, or regaining respect is really that foundation of moving from permission level to relationships, from the positional place that you've been placed in, right? Um, However, it doesn't mean we've arrived, right? If we look at levels, we're on level 2, right? So we're
Mm.
just still at the bottom. We're still growing. We're still learning. That respect, that trust is so difficult to gain, and it is so very unbelievably easy to lose. Without respect of our team, it's going to be really difficult, and we probably won't be able to sustain any type of success.
Mm.
Take time regularly to check in to see if you've lost that respect. Make adjustments if they're needed. Remember to focus on others, own your screw ups, be open and vulnerable. Check your attitude at the door, man, and be willing to jump in and do anything. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week on the Ridgeline Leadership Podcast. See you guys next time.